Hi, I'm Hilary Cassidy. Welcome to virtual MHS Open House. What I'm going to do is share some information about our classroom and about grading policies and about my classes and how to contact me. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen over to this PowerPoint. And this is very similar to what the student experience would be when we're talking during the day on Zooms. We'll be in a Zoom, and I can also share my screen with everybody when we're going through instructional material. So here we are. Again, my name is Hilary Cassidy. My contact information is hcassidy@marietta-city.k12.ga.us. I know that's a really long email address. I give you my phone number as well. You can call, leave a voicemail, you can text if you want to. We do also have Schoology Messenger, which works most excellently for students and parents to get in touch with us through Schoology. That would probably be the preferred method of contact. I do give remind codes on both the slides that I have for my two different preps, honors, geometry, and statistics, so you can always contact me through remind. Our classroom number when we're back face-to-face is going to be F214, and I just took a picture of the classroom as it stands right now. Normally what we'd be doing is we'd have the classes in groups. Typically students are seated anywhere from 4 to 5 together. Of course, for social distancing, we have the room ready so it can be as spread out as possible. I moved furniture so we're wall to wall to give people as much space as we can in their room. Most of my classes have about 33 students, so that's why it's pretty full wall-to-wall desks everywhere, but that's what it looks like. We're on the upper F hall near the end. We do have windows that open, which is super exciting. So we can get a nice breeze in the spring and the fall, and it's a really nice environment. Okay, my schedule as far as the day goes, we've got A days and B days currently on our virtual. Of course, Mondays and Wednesdays are A days, Tuesdays and Thursdays are B days. And we've got 1st through 4th block listed here. We have a 1-hour lunch between 12 and 1. I have a planning period on A days, and then I have another planning period on B days where it's all of our math departmental meetings. That's why it's listed as math faculty PLC meetings. So office hours are before school and after school, Monday through Thursday. On Fridays, we do have some times available by appointment between 8 and 12. And then I've reached out to students to say, you know, if this doesn't work, depending on their schedule and their extracurriculars, what they have going on, they can always message me and we can set up another time because Zooms are easy, or they can just send me a message if it's quick and I can send them back a short video or audio file to help them through whatever they're working on. All right, Zoom links can be found at the top of my class page on Schoology. We've got both classes listed here. As soon as students hit that tile on Schoology that says their class name, it pops right up, and as you can see, we've got the Zoom meeting links for all the different class blocks. I do have them separated, so it's not the same link for each class. It just makes it easier for folks to be able to log into the class that's appropriate for them. There is also a link there for Zoom office hours. That is always the same link. If they're going to attend any office hours, even if they set up an appointment with me, it's just a one-stop shop. They can click that link and they'll be right in to see me. So they don't have to memorize anything. It's all available. Below that, there's a blue course information folder, which is the same for pretty much every class. And then we start with our first unit. We're in unit 1 for both courses right now. Okay, so assignments can be found under the unit folders. We have dates next to each folder. So if a student's absent, or maybe they have something else going on, you know, they're traveling for fine arts or a sports team or something like that, they'll be able to see exactly what happened on the date that they weren't there. So for me, a lot of these are going to have 2 dates because all of my preps occur on both A and B days. So that's why there might be a span of 2 dates when it's just really one class period that was covered. So within those unit folders, we've got lesson folders, which are also dated. And then within that lesson, they have their instructions for the day and all the materials they need for that class. So some honors geometry information. So syllabus highlights for the time that we're virtual. So for this semester, for sure, since we've started virtually, our grading categories are really easy. It's 50-50, half formative, half summative. So summative are your tests and projects, and then formative is everything else. Quizzes, classwork, homework, anything like that would go into that formative category. So I give a course description. That's your basic course description. It is an honors class. They do get an extra quality point for the honors geometry. So the rigor is more stout than an on-level class. The pace is the same though. We're not going super fast with any of the topics. We're just going a little bit deeper, doing a little bit more applied mathematics with the topics, but same speed as an on-level course. So I gave a listing on the right of typical content agenda, and that's what we do to get through each subject that we're going through. So we do an interactive preview of the material in the online textbook, which is called Syllabus. And you'll notice that in Schoology on the left-hand side, there is a tile that says Syllabus. That is the student's access to get into their digital textbook. Some folks picked up physical textbooks as well. It's the same thing. It is easier to get into the digital, and that's where their interactive previews are located. So I assigned those the class before. The student works through, and it's interactive because they can type in ideas of what their answers would be to some lead-in problems to the topic, and it will give them feedback if they're correct or not. So that's prior to us discussing it in class. Then when we get to class, students are going to take notes during their preview ahead of time, but then add to them as we talk about the topic in class. So they're probably filling in things. If they had questions that came up during their preview, they're going to fill in notes about what the answers to those questions were, things of that nature. I do also provide sample notes in Schoology, which is a scan of my composition notebook, so they do have a reference, and they can go from those. In class, we go over the sample notes, add any additional details, any additional examples, as questions come up from students' previews. Then the students select problems to show mastery of the topic. Typically, it's about 5. It just depends on the topic and what we're doing. They always have 3 documents to choose from to select those problems. There's an exercises document, which has lots of choices. It's 2 pages long. It's a PDF, tons of different choices. There's an additional practice document, which is shorter. It's always more numerical and less word problems. And then there's always an enrichment document, which has real-world application problems or puzzle-based things. So they can look at everything and decide, oh, this looks interesting to me. This looks worthwhile to me. I'm going to pick these problems. A lot of students already had great ideas about how they would do this. You know, they picked a couple they knew they felt pretty confident about, and then a couple more they felt were more of a stretch. And they'd visit with me really quickly, you know, during class or during office hours to check in about those to make sure they could get through the ones that were a bit of a stretch. But again, it's student driven. They're really selecting what they find interesting about the topic. Then when they're done and they've completed those problems, they're submitting it to a tile in Schoology that says Mastery Work Submission. And that's where their grade comes from for that topic. So we have quizzes periodically, and then of course we have unit tests. Some units are broken into more than 1 unit test if they're really long. Our next unit is like that. But for the most part, there's 1 cumulative unit test. So for my statistical reasoning course, same split, formative, summative. I've got the course description there. Typical content agenda for statistical reasoning. We do a warm-up problem involving collecting some sort of class data. So we use all sorts of different technology tools in order to get that data, just to try to make it fun and to try to show students different tools they can use when they start designing their own studies to be able to collect data during the latter parts of the course. So it would be just a simple question. For example, one we did the other day was, how many concerts have you been to? And then we take that data and we analyze it using the concepts that we're going to talk about in class. So for the warm-up, they're broken up into small groups, and they're structured through leading questions to get through the analysis using the concepts we're going to cover in class, but without directly giving them any instruction about those concepts. When they're done working in the small groups for the warm-up, after a predetermined amount of time, depending on how complicated it is, I do the instructional presentation and they take notes. That's listed in Schoology. There's a PowerPoint there. It's really easy to follow. They're not really long. Then we move on to individual completion of an application problem using the concepts covered in class. So we move from the group setting to the individual settings. They can focus on showing me what they know. They complete that application problem. And then we come back together as a group and we recap any necessary vocabulary, essential items that should be contained in the student write-up of the warm-up and the assignment before they submit them both to Schoology. So for every day we meet, typically they're submitting 1 warm-up and 1 application problem assignment. Students submit their write-up fully into Schoology. They can do it on a piece of paper, take a picture of it with their phone. They can do it as an imported document, whatever works for them. We do use a lot of technology in the class as far as applets and other sites that help them graph and form statistical analyses, because we're understanding that people have a variety of calculators they're working with right now. So lots of flexibility and choice as far as what works best for them, technology-wise. This is the last slide. I've got a QR code here, which links to a Google form. Just got some really quick questions. If you could scan it at your convenience and just type in the given information. Basically, it's looking at what's the best way to contact your student. You know, what do you think they would prefer? Would they prefer email? Would they prefer phone, school email? If it's their phone number or their personal email address, just enter that into the Google form. That way I have a better way to get in touch with them. I don't want to send them an email to an email they're not checking. There is also an area when you first scan this login to put in your personal email. And then that way we have it, just in case we need to get a hold of you for any reason, to check in about anything that's going on in the course. I do want to end with just letting everybody know that we are so excited to work with your students this year, virtually and in person. Our rooms are ready to go. We're excited to be here. And whatever we need to do, making it work kind of through this virtual environment has been great collaborating with the students already. They are giving us just as much feedback and positivity as we are giving them. So we are changing and adapting based on their feedback and any feedback you may have. Please feel free to share. I know it's a little bit different than the spring, especially now that grades count and assignments do need to be coming in, and we're getting students used to that again. But the first and foremost thing that we want to do is build relationships with the students and then with you as their support structure, so we can all just be a team in their success this year. So I'm really happy to meet you, and please feel free to reach out. We can set up a Zoom if you'd like to Zoom, or if you have any email questions. I'm happy to address anything that you would like to ask. Thanks again.